Hey Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches, and I'm back this Saturday evening with a quick tutorial on how to start and begin stitching with silk gauze. In my last video, I shared with you that I had purchased this design, and it's a Kathy Barrett design. Michelle Bendy has shared on one of her most recent videos that Kathy was retiring a few of her designs, and of course I went to Etsy and I checked it out. And I purchased this with a couple of others, but I purchased this with the plan to work this piece on a piece of silk gauze. The reason I chose it for silk gauze is because it is a smaller design. It's actually 82 by 61 high, and of course with silk gauze it's very small. I believe the piece she sent me was 40 count, so of course 40 threads per inch, vertical and horizontal, and you're going to stitch the tent stitch, which is just one leg of the cross stitch over each fabric thread, so each silk thread. So here's the piece of silk gauze. I was generously gifted this piece by Arlene Cohen from here on Flosstube. Thanks, Arlene. Arlene also has an Etsy shop, works by ABC. Go check her out. Anyway, I took the piece that she gifted me, and tonight I sewed this piece onto a piece of muslin. And of course later on, after zigzagging the silk piece onto the muslin, I cut the muslin away. And I want to kind of show you how I went about doing that. I've got a piece of scrap fabric that I have sewn onto a piece of muslin, and I did not iron these, as you can see, even with this one, or maybe you can't. I knew that once I put it on my hoop it was going to pull those wrinkles right on out, and it really has, because that piece was just as wrinkled as this one. Anyway, what I did was take a piece of scrap fabric and sewed it onto a piece of muslin, just like I did with the silk gauze. I zigzagged around the edges to secure it to the muslin. I also took a pencil, and using a ruler or a straight edge of some point, like maybe a book, you can draw a line from corner to corner, so bottom left to top right and bottom right to top left, and find your center point. This is going, if this hypothetically, if this was a piece of silk gauze, you would see that this was the center point. So when you're starting to stitch on your silk gauze, this would be on the bottom side, and you would be able to find your center point. Now, is this the way it's done? This is the way Lori does it, but I don't know if there's a book that suggests this. But just know that that's how I find my center point. So once you find your silk gauze, you're going to take the muslin piece, which is on this side, and you can see I've already cut some, but you're going to pinch that fabric, and you're going to pinch the fabric, the muslin, and you're going to pinch the silk gauze, and you're going to pull them away from one another. And you're going to carefully cut an X into the muslin, and then you're going to use your scissors, and you're going to cut the muslin away from the silk gauze very carefully, making sure not only that you do not cut into your silk gauze, and you do not cut into the zigzags stitches that you secured the silk gauze onto the muslin with. So this is exactly the way I cut my silk gauze away from the muslin. And as you can see here, it shows your fabric from beneath. It secures it to the muslin so that you can secure the piece to a Q-snap. You can secure your silk gauze to a hoop, as I have done. You can secure it. I've also seen in the past, I've received pieces of silk gauze in kits that the silk gauze was actually attached between two pieces of mat board. I personally did not care for that, because over the time you hold it in your hand, or at least that's the way I did it. There was no other suggestions in the kit. And over time, that silk gauze, the paper from that mat board gets dingy from your handles and hold it in your hand, as well as it will warp So just know that you can do it that way, but that's another option. But as far as cutting the muslin away, you will just continue to cut all the way around on the edges of the zigzag, just as I have done here. Remember that X that's on the back? Let me turn this up. Let me see if you can, that's my pattern. I'm going to see my X. This is the X that I drew with the pencil on the back side of my silk gauze. I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to put my piece down. And I know that it's right here because I can faintly see it. And pardon me while I put my pattern back up. I'm also going to, bear with me, I'm going to put my outline down so that you guys can see a little better. Or maybe, let me see if I can see. Let's try it without the magnification first. Anyway, to get started, I've chosen to stitch a horse or a zebra, I'm not sure which, first. And I'm just going to do a waist knot in the edge of the fabric, like that. And for those that don't know how to do this knot, if you tug it really quick or real easy, it's going to come right back out. So you're going to make a bend in your fabric, a bend in your thread like this. So I just looped it over. I'm going to put my finger in that loop and I'm going to give it one twist, stick my two fingers through, and pull to make a slip knot. I called it a waist knot, but slip knot. I think this is what you do in crochet, isn't it? Alright, so you've got this slip knot. And that's going to secure that thread in the edging. So, I think I'm going to use this light anyway. Hold on. Okay, is that better? I hope so. Okay. As I said, I had already found my center and I can see it through my fabric. But I'm going to count up 3 and over 5. 3, 4, 5. Oop. See, I've already made a mistake. I didn't start the thread. So anyway, I'm going to go over here, and since you can see this edge first better, I'm going to go ahead and throw my thread into there. And as you can see, my thread is secured on the edge. Don't tug too heavily because it will pull that slip knot through. Okay, so that's my starting point for this horse. And then I'm just going to do tent stitches. Now, just so you know, silk gauze, I've seen only one piece that was done that was not a full coverage. And it was in a local shop here, and it was a headshot, I think, of Scarlett O'Hara, and it was beautiful, but you, of course, can see through the fabric, and Scarlett was there. But as far as most pieces are stitched full coverage on the silk gauze, and they're stitched with tent stitch. And I'm wondering why I can't see, and I had my glasses on top of my head. So I've made the first stitch. And with that away knot, the reason you put that there is when I complete the stitching of this horse, that I can slip that knot back out of that thread. I can then rethread my needle with this thread, and then I can secure this ending thread beneath the stitches that I have made to tie it off. I imagine you can just as easily secure your ending thread or beginning thread as you would with any cross stitch project by securing the tail on the back and then flipping over to the front. I just find it easier this way because when you're stitching on silk gauze, as you can see how tiny these stitches are. Remember, this is one stitch. Let me see if I can get closer. This is one stitch over 40. There's 40 silk threads per inch. So you're putting 40 tent stitches per inch. Can you imagine pulling that out? So I choose to use the waist knots in the edges. Alright, and already I'm making a tiny little mistake. So that is the quick tutorial on how to get started with silk gauze. Give it a try. So many of you left comments in my last video stating it intimidates you, you didn't know how to get started. There are so many of us out here that have knowledge in different areas than the cross stitch, that have maybe strengths or suggestions or things they have just learned along the way that we can all tap into, because none of us know everything, but all of us know a little something that we can share. So I do challenge you to show someone something new this week and challenge them to take a step in learning something new. Anyway, have a great weekend. I hope you learned a little something today with this starting on silk gauze. If you have any other questions, just drop a question below. I'll also try to keep everyone updated on my Instagram page, which is the same as my Flosstube page here, Mischievous Stitches, to show you progress shots of this piece. And until next time, hugs and stitches.